They battled for years in football's biggest fixture, using their skill to make hostility an art. Wins, draws, losses from both ends, it was a mixture. Right up until both exited left, 3 years apart. One was forced out and left alone in the gloom, never in his heart of hearts actually wanting to leave. The other was seeking a fresh new challenge he saw loom, or at least that's what he wants you to believe. But how did they fare once they did go their way? Were they able to replicate the remarkable runs of ravaging, ripping through and running ragged, thus ruining the reps of many players in Spain? Only in spurts, I'm afraid to say, for there was also unforeseen pain. But who did it better? That is the question we will aim to answer today. And yes, for those of you who watched the Salah vs Ronaldo video, I indeed am using the same 7 categories to judge, with one major difference. You see, given that I was judging at the time close to 10 years of Salah's career and 7.5 of Ronaldo's, longevity had a very heavy bearing on who was better. 15 points to be exact. However, given that we are looking at a significantly smaller period of time of both GOATs' careers, with each of them starting this phase in their mid-30s, longevity will hold only 5% of the weight here. And for those of you who aren't very strong with your mental maths, that's 10 points less than they did in the Salah Ronaldo video. And of the 10 points, 5 will be allocated to individual statistics and 5 added to big game displays. And that's simply because the shorter the time period, the more your impact matters in one-off games, making this the final criteria of judgment. Take it in now, ask questions later. PSG, Messi versus Juventus, Ronaldo. Let's roll on. Number 1, longevity, given out of 5. Right, so this shouldn't take long. Ironically, that's obviously because these guys didn't take long in those places either. Messi spent 2 years in Paris, Ronaldo spent 3 years in Turin, and therefore it is literally as straightforward as Messi 2 points, Ronaldo 3 points. Number 2, the eye test, given out of 5. So given the profile of player he is and, well, who he is, Lionel Messi will always have an advantage when it comes to the eye test, no matter where, when or what stage of his career we're talking about. Though having said that, Ronaldo at Juventus actually showcased a more dynamic side to his game when compared to his last 2 years at Real. He began dropping deeper, taking on people more, linking up play a lot more effectively, and even rolling back the years on occasion by hugging the touchline. But even so, and even though he was far from the wizard he was in his prime, neither of them were, Leo does still edge this, I'd say. Points: Messi 3.5 out of 5, Ronaldo 2.5 out of 5. Number 3, collective success, given out of 10. Right, so considering that, again, unlike the Salah Ronaldo comparisons, we are looking at a shorter period of time here, and given that neither of these guys managed to find success on the European stage during said short period of time, this is once again a fairly straightforward comparison. Messi won 3 trophies in 2 years with PSG, Ronaldo won 5 trophies in 3 years with Juve. Messi's trophy count includes back-to-back league titles as well as the French Super Cup. Ronaldo's trophy count includes back-to-back league titles, the Coppa Italia and 2 Italian Super Cups. Both decent returns, but probably a tad short of what the owners had in mind. Points: Messi 6.5 out of 10, Ronaldo 8 out of 10. Number 4, individual statistics, given out of 10. Okay, first things first out of the way. When we talk individual statistics, we will only talk about main individual statistics, i.e. apps, goals, assists. It would be stupid to compare beyond that, given that they played in completely different positions for completely different teams in completely different leagues, alongside and against completely different players. In all honesty, even the main statistics shouldn't really be directly pitted against each other, but at least comparing them is somewhat understandable. So, Lionel Messi in 2 seasons with PSG tallied 32 goals and 35 assists in 75 games. Cristiano Ronaldo in 3 seasons with Juventus managed 101 goals and 28 assists in 134 games. Now, if you wish to judge by ratios, there really isn't much in it. However, as usual, only judging at face value is incredibly ignorant, and therefore one must never forget to consider the outside factors. You see, PSG on average scores significantly more goals per season than Juventus do. Facts are, it's still noticeably easier to stat pad for PSG than it was even Juve. Let me explain. So, despite winning 90% of the Scudettos available in their decade of destruction from 2011 to 2021, you know how many times the old lady actually finished as the league's top scoring team? Twice. Compared to PSG's 9. And you know how many times a player from the old lady captured the Serie A Golden Boot? Once. again compared to PSG's 9. And that's not even the end of it, because while PSG during their period of dominance exceeded 100 league goals on 3 different occasions, Juve during theirs didn't even manage to reach 90 in any of those 10 seasons. Hell, they only even passed 80 twice. Cause simply put, Messi at PSG is hypothetically on the ideal team and league to boost his numbers, i.e. on a high scoring super team in a league they dominate, whereas Ronaldo at Juventus was in a low scoring super team in a league they dominate. Ergo, expecting Ronaldo to achieve a similar goal contribution ratio to PSG Messi while he's playing for Juve in Serie A doesn't seem fair. And yet somehow, he still managed to be fair. And this is why there's a very clear winner here. Points: Messi 5 out of 10, Ronaldo 7.5 out of 10. Number 5, big game displays, given out of 20. Right, so if you're honest with yourselves, which you should be as trusted elder members of the community have informed me that they believe for that to be the best policy, some of you here no doubt get a kick out of me at times being brutally honest with Messi. And well, to those I have this to say. This is what you've been waiting for. Cause yeah man, I'm sorry, but when it comes to the big games with PSG, Leo was just poor. Honestly, in the entirety of his 2 years with the Parisians, there was only one big game I can point to and say he was no doubt above average, and thus Manchester City in September of 2021, right at the beginning where he still had some of the Barca spirit alive. But apparently not for long, cause that performance was followed by nothing but big game disaster / disappointment. Cue missing a penalty against Madrid, going anonymous against Juve, being left helpless against Bayern, and even looking lost in some of the domestic crunch ties against the likes of Jens, Nice and FC Lorient. He just weren't about it anymore. But you know who was? Yep, don't get it twisted. Ronaldo at Juve was by no means a flawless big game player, and certainly wasn't anything close to peak Mr. Champions League during the 3-peat years. But some brilliant performances against both Milan sides, Fiorentina, one decent showing apiece against Barcelona, United, 2 underrated displays against Atletico, and one further all-timer against Atletico again shows that, as usual, no matter where he is, how he is, or even how old he is, the big stage is his stage. Points: Messi 6 out of 20, Ronaldo 17 out of 20. Number 6, performance relative to team, given out of 20. And for those who aren't sure what that is, basically we'll just go on a season by season basis, see how well their team did, see how well they did, and to what extent did their own displays contribute to the team's success. Right, this without question is the toughest section of this video, because you see there are 2 ways we can view this, a microscopic view and a macroscopic view. And well, when taking a microscopic view and assessing specific games and seeing how Ronaldo was the difference in his team's victories in almost every notable victory Juve had in those 3 years, and then pit that up against Messi's disappearance in big games where PSG even came out on the winning side like the first leg of the last 16 against Madrid, you'll think this is possibly an even more of a clear-cut win for CR7 than the big game section itself. But then there's the macro view, and that is, what did these victories mean in the grand scheme of things? And well, number 1, Juventus had been winning the league on the bounce for years before Ronaldo arrived, and in fact failed for the first time in his final season. And 2, for all the slack Messi gets for his time there, people forget this, but PSG actually lost the title before Messi arrived, and then won it back after he arrived. Not saying Juve losing out is Ronnie's fault, it sure wasn't, watch this video. Nor am I saying PSG winning the league back was Messi's doing, it sure wasn't, watch this video. But these things have to be considered to give context and in turn more of an understanding of their stories. If it was just a case of counting up the medals, you could have done that in your own time. It is only up to 5 after all. Points: Messi 14 out of 20, Ronaldo 11 out of 20. And number 7, consistency, given out of 30. The most important section of this video, and to be entirely honest, we're back to assessing one of the more straightforward sections of this video. Messi had 2 seasons at PSG, the first of which he began poorly, picked up a little steam, and the end. He just didn't get out of second gear, sorry. Meanwhile, the second season began with a lot of promise. He put up a string of good displays together, particularly in Europe, albeit against lesser opposition, but then slumped back to relative mediocrity post-World Cup. Relative mediocrity, by the way, meaning he went down to a level which by an average footballer's standards is exceptionally high, but by his exceptionally high standards, yes, mediocre indeed. And as far as Ronaldo, no need to say too much, cause for once this is appropriate to say, the numbers speak for themselves. Plus, being the first Juve player to win the Golden Boot in over a dozen years is an underrated flex, let's be honest. Points: Messi 15 out of 30, Ronaldo 25 out of 30. Final score: Messi 52, Ronaldo 74. Till next time, you keep rolling.